"Mom, why are you giving food to that dirty guy?" That's what the kid said as the homeless man took his slice of pizza. The old man said nothing, gave half to his dog, and walked away. But weeks later, when a bear came out of the woods and that same boy was frozen with fear, guess who stepped out of the shadows? Just a veteran, a dog, and instincts you never forget. Hello everyone, now we begin in a place you might recognize. Not from a postcard, not from a film, but from somewhere smaller. Picture a sunlit neighborhood street, the kind where the air smells faintly of jasmine and melted mozzarella. It's early afternoon, and the sidewalks are warm. Wind chimes tinkle on front porches. Inside a small corner pizza shop, a woman flips dough into the air like she's been doing it since she could walk. The bell above the door jingles softly. This is the kind of day you wish you could bottle, right up until it changes everything. You probably won't survive this if you're expecting fireworks and explosions. This isn't that kind of veteran story. This one works slower, like a knot untangling in your chest. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and hey, drop your location and your local time in the comments. Let's see how far this little pizza shop reaches. Now, relax, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise. And let's get into today's story. You're Leo, a 7-year-old boy with a head full of questions and a growing appetite for logic. You live with your mom, Sarah, in a sunny corner apartment above the family business, the Daily Slice, her handmade pizza shop. Life follows a rhythm you trust. School in the morning, crusts and cartoons in the evening, but there's this man, every Tuesday, Thursday, and sometimes Sunday, he shows up. Always around the same time, always alone, well, except for his dog. He's tall but slouched. His coat has too many pockets. His beard looks like it grew with stories it can't tell. And his eyes? They don't match the rest of him. They're sharp. Watching. Like he's still waiting for something to happen. You don't like how your mom treats him like a friend. She waves when he walks by. She hands him a paper plate with 2 hot slices. And the dog, a massive black shepherd with silver tufts around the eyes, just sits patiently, tail sweeping the pavement like he's been trained to wait his turn. You tug on your mother's apron one day. Why do you keep giving him food? He doesn't pay. She looks down at you with those eyes that see way too much. Because he's hungry, Leo. And that's enough. That doesn't feel like a full answer. You frown. You don't trust people who don't say please or thank you. And besides, he smells weird. His jacket is patched. And once, you saw him talking to himself behind the trash bins. He's homeless, you whisper, as if it's a dirty word, maybe, your mom says gently. But he's still human. You don't understand. He has nothing to give, nothing to trade. Doesn't kindness cost something? Isn't fairness about everyone paying their share? One afternoon, the old man, Arthur, as your mom calls him, sits outside at the far end of the patio. He never comes inside. You watch from the window. He feeds a bit of crust to the dog, who chews like it's the last bite on earth. Then they both sit. You mutter, weird. Sarah's stirring sauce. She doesn't look up. You know, when you're older, you'll understand that not everyone shows their story on their sleeve. Maybe he's just lazy, you snap, Leo. Her voice is calm, but it freezes your insides. People fall. All kinds of ways. Not everyone gets help getting back up. You want to ask more, but you don't. The pizza bell rings. Customers walk in. Later, in the evening, Arthur appears again. He doesn't speak. Your mother gives him 2 more slices, this time with an extra piece of sausage rolled up for the dog. You sit on the steps, arms crossed. The dog looks at you. His name's Shadow, your mom says, noticing your stare. He follows Arthur like a memory. You wonder what kind of memory needs a dog that big to carry it. The days blend. Arthur comes and goes. Your discomfort grows not because he does anything wrong, but because he doesn't fit. He doesn't belong in your neat little rules. People should work for what they get. People should look clean and act cheerful. That's what you've learned. But Sarah keeps giving. And the stranger keeps receiving. And the dog keeps waiting. It's the strangest kind of peace. Like a deal between souls that doesn't need explaining. You overhear one of the neighbors, Mrs. Davison, whispering to your mom. He looks like someone I knew once. Used to live here. Fought in the Gulf. He had a limp, like Arthur. And a dog trained to sit still no matter what. Your mom doesn't say anything, just smiles. You, of course, pretend you're not listening. But now your brain is busy, putting puzzle pieces where maybe they don't belong. Still, it's just pizza. And a stray man. And a dog that never blinks. Nothing extraordinary. Not yet. You're still Leo, still 7, still not convinced. But something's shifting in how you watch him, Arthur. The man who never asks for anything, yet always receives. Your mornings start the same, with cereal and cartoons, but now your eyes drift out the window more often. Looking for a glimpse. A shape. A shadow. Sometimes, you see him early, before the sun crests the rooftops. He walks the street slowly, like someone measuring every step. Shadow trots alongside him, no leash. He doesn't need one. The dog moves like an extension of the man himself. Stops when Arthur stops. Looks when Arthur looks. There's a kind of precision to it all. Like a dance you don't understand. One morning, you catch something strange. Arthur's crossing the street when a car comes around the corner too fast. You flinch from the window. But Arthur doesn't. He raises one arm, not frantically, not in panic, but high, firm, flat-palmed. A signal. The kind you've seen in movies, old war films your grandfather watched on Sunday afternoons. The car brakes. The driver curses. Arthur just nods, and walks on. Shadow mirrors the nod, like it's routine. You say nothing. But the image sticks. Later, you tell your mom what you saw. That's just muscle memory, she says, washing dishes. What's that? You ask. When your body remembers what your mind doesn't want to anymore. You think about that a long time. That week, Mrs. Davison comes in for a slice and a story, as she always does. You sit nearby, pretending to play with your handheld game, but your ears are wide open. I swear to you, Sarah, she says, sipping her root beer, that man used to be stationed upstate. Years ago. People said he trained dogs for mine detection. Said he saved lives. Sarah wipes the counter, not surprised. Not dismissive either. Did you ever get his name? No. But the dog. That dog. I remember one just like him. Obedient to the bone. Didn't flinch at gunshots. Maybe they're the same, Sarah says, almost too softly. You almost forget to pretend you're playing your game, the next time Arthur comes by. You look harder. His hands are large, veiny, but steady. There's a mark just beneath his rolled sleeve, something faded but still clear, a tattoo of a winged dagger. You recognize it from a book your teacher showed once, Special Forces. You don't know exactly what it means, but you know it's serious. Arthur notices you staring. You quickly look away. But you feel his gaze linger. Not unkind, just present. You tell yourself it doesn't mean anything. Tattoos are just ink, but shadow doesn't help your logic. That dog is too perfect, too aware. One day, you drop your juice box near him. Before it even hits the ground, shadow steps sideways, letting it fall clear. No flinch. No panic. A calm response to chaos. You ask your mom, do you think he trained that dog? I think they trained each other, she says. At school, your class talks about community heroes. Police, firefighters, doctors. Your teacher says, sometimes heroes are invisible until we need them. You raise your hand. Can a homeless man be a hero? She pauses, surprised. Anyone can be a hero, she says slowly. It depends on what they do when the moment comes. You think about that as you bike home. You pass Arthur sitting on the bench outside the shop. Shadow lies beside him, eyes half-lidded but alert. You don't stop. But you look. And for the first time, Arthur looks back. He doesn't smile. He doesn't wave. He just nods once, like you're not invisible anymore. That night, your mom tells you a story, before you were born. She says, a man in uniform came into this shop during a thunderstorm. He bought a single slice and sat for hours, soaked. Said he was waiting for his ride. Before he left, he cleaned his plate, tucked the chair in, and said, "Thank you for the warmth." I never forgot that. You nod, but you don't ask if it was Arthur. Something tells you she wouldn't answer anyway. More clues gather. You watch Arthur reach for something on the ground and wince, like an old wound pinching. You notice how he always sits with his back to the wall, eyes scanning slowly, methodically. How Shadow never eats until Arthur gives a soft tap near the food, but the rest of the neighborhood still sees what they want to see. A drifter. A mutterer. A man out of sync, only now, you're starting to see something else. Not just a man, but a pattern, not just a dog, but a discipline, and still, no one's asking questions. Not really. Because peace is easier than truth, but the silence won't last. You don't know it yet, but the next time you see Arthur, he won't be quietly eating pizza, he'll be standing between you and something wild, something with teeth. And then, finally, the story will start speaking for itself. It's Saturday, and the world feels like it's made for you. You're on your new scooter, sleek, shiny, lime green with red handle grips, racing down the sidewalks like you own every inch. The neighborhood's alive, sprinklers hiss, lawnmowers drone, birds chatter in trees still heavy with early summer bloom. You dart past Mrs. Davison's rose bushes, zip by the shop's back alley, and cruise toward the wooded path at the far end of Mapleview Lane. The path is supposed to be off-limits, just a shortcut between the neighborhood and a forgotten park. Your mom says not to go there alone, but right now, you feel fast, invincible, and curious. You veer off. The trail crunches under your wheels, leaves, twigs, tiny stones. It's shady here, cooler than the rest of the day. You slow a little. The trees are thicker. Shadows lean long, then the world changes. You hear it before you see it, an almost liquid snort, like breath forcing through muscle. A crack of branches. Something too big for this place. You stop, 50 feet ahead, in a dip where the path curves and dips behind overgrown bushes. Something dark stirs. It steps forward, a bear, a real one. Massive, brown and broad-shouldered, with old scars running through its thick fur like fading lightning. Its eyes catch the sunlight, and they are not kind. It hasn't seen you yet. But it will. You freeze. Your scooter tips and falls. The thud is louder than you expect, stupidly loud. The bear jerks its head, and now it sees you. Time collapses. You can't move. Can't scream. The wild thing is close enough to smell. It doesn't charge, but it shifts forward, testing. Curious. And in its eyes is that ancient question predators always ask. Can I eat this? Your knees are shaking. You try to step back and almost trip over your own foot. The bear lowers its head, and then, a sound cuts through the tension like a whip, a low, deliberate growl. You snap your head around. Arthur. Standing at the edge of the trail, maybe 30 feet behind you, still and silent like a stone that's always been there. Shadow is at Arthur's side, but his body is different now, tense, deliberate. Ears up. Eyes locked. Arthur's voice is barely a whisper, but you hear it clear. Don't move. It's not a suggestion. You stand as still as your body will let you. Arthur takes a slow step forward. Then another. He raises his arms, not flailing, not dramatic. Just big, open, and sure. His fingers spread wide. His stance rooted like a tree. Get back, he says. Not to you, to the bear. The bear huffs again, agitated now, but it doesn't charge. It watches Arthur. Something about him confuses it. Bears know prey, but this? This doesn't look like prey. Shadow takes 2 measured steps forward and emits a deep, vibrating bark. Not frantic, controlled. One bark. A warning. The bear growls, rises just slightly on its hind legs. But Arthur doesn't budge. You see it then, not fear in his eyes, but calculation. He's reading the bear, watching for signs, knowing when to push and when to hold. He keeps his voice calm. You don't want this. Another step forward. Go home. Another. Shadow doesn't blink. The bear lets out a rumbling huff, less aggressive this time. It drops back to all fours, paws the ground once, then turns. It doesn't run. It just leaves, crashing back into the trees like it was never there. The silence afterward is enormous. Your ears ring with the absence of sound. You feel your knees finally buckle. You fall, not hard, just soft, like someone letting go of a breath they didn't know they were holding. Arthur is next to you in 3 steps. He kneels. You hurt. You shake your head. Tears sting your eyes, but you blink them away. I didn't know what to do. He nods. You stayed still. That helped. Shadow noses your side. You flinch, then pet him with trembling fingers. His fur is warm and solid. Comforting. Was it going to eat me? You ask, your voice cracking. Arthur's mouth twitches into a tired kind of smile. It was thinking about it. You look up at him, really look. His face is still. Calm. But underneath, there's something else. Something buried. Like this moment, this fear, isn't new to him. What if you didn't come? You ask. I always come here, he says. Every Saturday. Same time. You don't respond. Your breath still comes shaky. He helps you stand. Shadow presses close, walking on your other side. A living shield. You walk together back toward the street, your scooter dragging behind you, while squeaking slightly. As you step out of the trees and into the sun again, you see people gathered near the edge of the sidewalk. Mrs. Davison, Mr. Henderson. And your mother, eyes wide, face pale, she runs, wraps you up before you can say a word. I'm okay, you say, muffled in her shoulder. I'm okay. Arthur stands back. Still. Watching. She saved me, you say, pointing at Shadow. No, says Sarah, pulling away just enough to look you in the eye. He did. You turn to Arthur, and for the first time, you see him not as a stranger, not as someone who doesn't belong. You see him as a wall. A sentinel. The last line between you and something ancient and wild. You see him as safe, and for the first time, you understand. Sometimes heroes don't arrive with sirens. Sometimes they've already been there, every day, quietly waiting. The next morning, the whole neighborhood hums like a hive. Word spreads fast on Mapleview Lane. Kids repeat it like a legend. Leo saw a bear, Arthur scared it off, Shadow barked and it ran. Everyone has a slightly different version. Some say the bear was huge as a car, others say Arthur stared it down like a cowboy in a duel. But the core truth sticks. A man nobody paid attention to saved a child from something wild. And now, suddenly, everybody's paying attention. You wake up to the smell of fresh pizza dough and your mom on the phone, giving her version of events to someone. You slip out of bed and pad down the hall, listening. Yes, Officer Miller. I saw the bear tracks myself. No, I don't think Arthur would want a fuss, but still, you need to meet him. Yes, I'll be at the shop. So will he. By the time you finish brushing your teeth, Arthur's name feels different in your mouth. It's no longer the mysterious shape you said with a hint of suspicion. Now it feels like armor. Solid. Reliable. At the pizza shop that afternoon, Arthur is already there, sitting outside in the shade. Shadow lies at his feet, people nod now. Some even smile. Mrs. Davison brings him a coffee. Black, right? She asks. Arthur just gives a slow nod of thanks. You sit inside, watching everything through the window like it's a movie. Arthur doesn't look much different, but everyone around him does. Then a patrol car pulls up, out steps Officer Miller, tall, broad, with mirrored sunglasses and a notebook tucked in his chest pocket. He walks slowly up to Arthur. Arthur, right? He says. Arthur looks up. Doesn't flinch. Doesn't speak. I'm Officer Miller. I heard you kept a kid alive yesterday. Arthur nods. Miller kneels to pet Shadow, who doesn't growl, just watches. That's some dog, Miller says. Disciplined. I've only seen dogs like this in service. Arthur's voice is quiet, but firm. She was trained for IED detection. Iraq. 2 tours. Miller's eyebrows lift. Yours, she chose me. The officer sits down on the bench beside him, flipping open his notebook. Mind if I ask you a few questions? Arthur shrugs. You're going to anyway. You sneak outside and sit on the steps, not too close, but close enough to listen. Miller glances down at Arthur's wrist. That tattoo, Special Forces. Arthur nods. Retired. Long ago. You've got fans now, Miller says, scribbling notes. Kids already calling you the Bear Whisperer. Arthur chuckles for the first time you've ever heard. It's low, rusty, and full of something old. What's your last name? Miller asks. Arthur pauses. Then, Bryant. The name floats in the air like it belongs on a plaque. Miller flips a few pages. I thought I recognized you. There was a story, 7, 8 years back. You pulled 3 soldiers out of a burning convoy after a roadside explosion. Then you vanished. No VA, no pension trail. Just disappeared. Arthur doesn't deny it. Just says, didn't want a parade. Just quiet. Miller studies him. Well, the quiet's over. Folks want to thank you. Arthur sighs, not in protest, but like someone finally being seen when they'd spent years fading. That night, you bring Shadow a strip of leftover bacon. Arthur is leaning against the fence near the shop, watching the streetlights flicker on. You hold the bacon out, but pause. Can I ask something? Arthur nods. Were you scared? He looks down at you, then back toward the trees. Yes. But not the kind you're thinking. What kind then? He kneels, meets your eyes. When you've seen real fear, fear that doesn't leave, it doesn't come from things like bears. It comes from not being able to stop something you should have stopped. You don't fully understand, but you don't need to. The weight in his voice explains more than the words. I was lucky yesterday, he says. Lucky to be there in time. You nod. Thanks for saving me. Arthur gives a slight smile. You saved me too, kid. Didn't know how much I still had left to give. The next morning, the mayor stops by. In a suit too tight and a smile too big, he shakes Arthur's hand and calls him a local legend. A reporter from the community paper snaps photos. There's talk of a commendation. Arthur looks like he's enduring it, not enjoying it. But he lets them thank him. You notice how he always shifts the attention to Shadow. She was the real one, he says. I just followed her lead. Later, your mom pulls you aside. We're going to do something special for Arthur. You nod. Of course, the plan unfolds quickly. Sarah designs flyers. Mr. Henderson donates folding chairs. The Davison twins bake pies. And you write a note, on your best lined paper. In your best handwriting, it says, thank you for not being invisible anymore. You don't sign it. You don't need to. And then comes the moment you'll always remember, you and Arthur, side by side on the back step of the shop. The sky is burning orange, the whole neighborhood gathered out front, people cheer, clap. Someone plays a scratchy recording of God Bless America on their phone. A city official gives Arthur a framed certificate. Arthur holds it like something too delicate to break but too heavy to carry. Then your mom announces, Arthur has accepted a part-time job here at the Daily Slice. And thanks to the neighborhood fund, he and Shadow will move into the old caretaker's cottage behind the park next month. The crowd erupts, but Arthur just lowers his head and says, you didn't have to do this. Sarah answers, you already did something for us. This is just us catching up. You don't say anything, you just look up at him, and for the first time, he looks back like you're not just a kid anymore, you're someone who saw what others missed. You saw the soldier behind the quiet, the protector behind the worn clothes, the hero who never left. The day of the ceremony arrives like sunlight through storm clouds, warm, slow, and full of purpose. the entire block turns out. Folding chairs fill the sidewalk. Kids wear paper badges labeled Junior Rangers, and someone's draped an old flag across the front of the pizza shop. You stand near Arthur, feeling small and tall at the same time. He's clean-shaven now. Someone must have found him a new shirt, a dark blue button-down that fits well, almost like it remembers his shoulders from years ago. His boots are old, but polished. He stands straight, no cane, no slouch, like the years melted off just enough to reveal the man underneath. Shadow sits at his feet, still as a statue. Wearing a bright red bandana someone embroidered with Hero Dog. People keep coming up to shake Arthur's hand. Some are veterans, some are neighbors. One little girl gives him a drawing of a bear running from a man with glowing arms. Arthur chuckles and tells her she's a good artist with a sharp sense of irony. Then you're called up to speak. You hadn't planned to. Your mom just nudged you forward, whispering, "Say what you feel, not what sounds good." Your voice cracks when you start. But it gets stronger. "I used to think Arthur didn't belong here," you say. "I thought giving him pizza was wasting food. I thought he was just a guy who didn't want to work or didn't care." You pause, glance at Arthur. He's listening, but not judging. "But then he saved my life. He did it because he saw something dangerous and decided to protect me, even though I hadn't earned it. Even though I hadn't been kind." You swallow. The crowd is quiet. Now I think we all waste things we don't understand. And sometimes, we forget that the people who seem the most invisible are the ones who've done the most for us already. You step down. Arthur gives you a nod so small most people would miss it. But you don't. Later, while everyone's eating pizza and brownies, you sit beside Arthur again. He's got his certificate rolled up in one hand, not looking at it, just holding it like something sacred. You finally ask what you've been holding in your chest since that day in the woods. Did you ever get scared? After you came back. Arthur doesn't answer at first. Then, every day. Not always the same kind, sometimes loud, sometimes quiet. But yeah, it follows you. Until one day, it doesn't feel like fear anymore, it just becomes part of your story. Does it ever go away? You ask. He shakes his head. No. But you learn to carry it without letting it carry you. You nod, unsure if you understand. But knowing you will, someday. Weeks pass. Arthur starts his new job at the Daily Slice, not behind the counter, but at the door, greeting customers, handing out menus, watching over things. Shadow becomes the shop's unofficial mascot, always stationed beside the welcome sign, tail wagging whenever kids arrive. The cottage behind the park is small, but cozy. The community helped clean it up. Someone donated a couch. Someone else left a welcome mat that says "Still Serving." Sometimes after school, you bike over there. Sometimes you just sit on the porch with him. He doesn't say much. He never does. But when he does, you listen. One afternoon, you ask why he never told anyone who he was. Arthur looks out toward the woods, where the trees start to thicken and the birds go quiet, because people like stories about soldiers when they're neat and clean. But the truth's messier. It's not medals and glory, it's the stuff you carry after. The things you didn't do. The ones you couldn't save. Sometimes, silence feels like the only honest thing left. You don't say anything, you just sit there, your fingers brushing shadows back, and think about all the things silence can hold. One Saturday, you're playing with Shadow in the alley behind the shop. You toss a tennis ball, and she runs like she's 5 years younger. When she brings it back, panting and happy, you sit and catch your breath. Arthur walks up, holding 2 ice cream cones. One vanilla, one chocolate. He hands you the chocolate without asking. You both sit there on the curb, watching the world drift by. After a long pause, he says, "You're not scared of me anymore." You shake your head. "Never should have been." He nods. "You grew up fast." You shrug. "Some lessons come big." He smiles, finishes his cone, and tosses the wrapper in the bin behind him. Then he says something that sticks with you forever. People think being a hero means running toward danger. But most days, it just means showing up. Even when no one sees you. You don't respond, you just look at him and know he's right, because the quietest heroes, the ones that don't wear capes or badges or uniforms anymore, are the ones who never stop showing up, and if you're lucky, sometimes you get to thank them, sometimes you get to help them be seen again, sometimes they help you become who you're supposed to be. The ceremony ends. The chairs get folded. The pizza boxes disappear. The flag gets rolled up and returned to its plastic bin, but something lingers in the air long after the applause fades, a feeling. A change. Arthur no longer walks like he's trying not to be noticed. Now he walks like a man who remembers he belongs. Shadow still watches every corner, every sound, but her ears are relaxed more often, her eyes softer. Leo, you grow more thoughtful. You ask questions you used to ignore. You notice the people others pass by. Sarah keeps serving slices, but now each one carries more than just sauce and cheese. It carries warmth, memory, and a reminder that kindness is never wasted. The town goes back to normal, but it's a new kind of normal, one where a quiet man in a blue shirt and an old dog with wise eyes are part of the landscape, not as forgotten souls, but as living proof that heroism doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it just stands still and doesn't flinch, and when the wind shifts at dusk, you can still hear it, the growl that held off fear, the voice that didn't tremble, the calm that broke the wild. You'll remember it forever, and when your time comes to stand tall, to protect, to forgive, to be more than what others expect, you'll think of Arthur, and you'll show up, no fanfare, no speeches, just presence. Because sometimes, the greatest gift we can give someone is the reminder that they matter, that they're still seen, that their story didn't end the day the uniform came off, and sometimes it takes a slice of pizza, a scared boy, and a dog named Shadow to remind us all.